One. Welcome to this very special live edition of the Bestseller Experiment, the podcast where we, I've forgotten 400 episodes, you think I remember something about our books, something about inspiring people, something about good news and books and authors and doing wonderful stuff. Mr. D, can you hear me there on Canterbury?
I can hear you in Canterbury.
No idea how much How are you, Mr. D?
I'm doing great, and I just want to welcome everyone online. Everyone here has joined us from all around the world. Hello to everyone saying hello to us, and hello to everyone in the UK.
Let's introduce ourselves. So, in alphabetical order, I think we do this. First of all, welcome, Rowan Coleman! Last but by no means least, our unreachable pal, Wassmer! Wonderful stuff. One of the things we're going to be talking about today is being an author a full-time job. Can we do this as a full-time job? Is there any, what does the future hold? So we've got a lovely mix of authors here, because we've got Julie, who wrote on EastEnders for 20 years and then wrote the fantastic series, the Whitstable Pearl series, which has been hugely, book 8 now? 9? 9. Yes, 9. Wow. Okay, Rowan, who's been writing, again, how many years, Rowan?
That's 20 years this year, Mark.
20 years, and she still hasn't fallen asleep at the wheel. So, and then we got, Nadine and Pernille. Pernille, you're on book 3.
Yeah.
Nadine, you're on book 2.
Book 2, writing book 3.
Writing book 3, excellent.
Yes.
So, we've got newcomers, we've got a lovely mix. So, and I thought one of the first things we would address is how we make money as authors, because I think there's a great misconception that once we're an author, we all got that J.K. Rowling money and we're all immensely rich. I'm not. I can tell you that for a start. But shall we talk about how advances work and what it was like to get that advance for the first time? Rowan, do you remember your first advance? And was it holidays to the Caribbean and all that kind of thing, or what did you do with it?
It was not holidays to the Caribbean. It was 2001. It was medium 5 figures, and I was jolly chuffed, frankly, because I'd never thought I was getting a book published, so everything else didn't really factor in. And I didn't actually, when I first got my contract and my offer, I didn't understand how advances worked at all. Yeah. I just thought they'd give me the money and that would be it. But no, you have to write the book. So you get a little bit of money when you sign the contract, and then you get another portion when you deliver the book, and then another portion when it's published in paperback, and then another portion when it's published in hardback. So sometimes an advance can stretch over 4 or 5 years if you're if things don't go according to plan, like for instance there's a pandemic or something. And I was really very excited, it's not paying off my mortgage, but I did pay off my student loan, right? So that was good.
Kind of, Pernille, you're digital first. That works a bit differently, doesn't it?
Yeah, so my publisher is One More Chapter, who are part of HarperCollins. They were set up when ebooks really came out to deliver ebooks. And so I don't know what it's like to have an advance, because you don't get one with an ebook first. Generally, there is no advance, but you get a different royalty system. So for the first 10,000 books, you get a certain percentage of what your book, the bookseller doesn't take. So they'll take their cut, and then what's left you then get a percentage of. And then over 10,000 copies, that then slides upwards. So you'll kind of get better cuts quicker. And obviously, if you have an agent, they'll take their slice as well. But you don't have a nice pot of money up front. But then also, you're not paying back in advance. So from that point of view, it's really, if you need money right now, then maybe that's not great for you. But if actually you're happy to have a monthly royalty, because we get a monthly royalty, which is also different from other publishers, then this is actually maybe a different way that is better for you. I would say that I have actually, that was a lie, I have had an advance because I've sold my new book to Germany,
Right.
and there I got an advance, and that was in 3 splits, and that was signed a year ago, and I haven't seen any of it because German paperwork says it's somewhere. I just don't know where it is.
Because you have to tell the taxman in Germany that you're not German and you fill out a form, and because of COVID and all sorts of other things, I'm still waiting for mine to come back.
Yeah,
I've got a Russian deal as well. I'm never going to see that.
You are never going to see that.
So, Nadine, where are you at this point in terms of advances and royalties and stuff like that? Are you rolling in it, or are you?
I was rolling in it. I was just going to say, because you mentioned Russian, I got mine before the whole Ukraine deal.
Right.
And so I got my money.
Cheers.
From Russia. But no, it's like what you were saying. You don't get your money all at once. And when you get the publishing deal, and I went into an auction, so there were 6 publishers bidding for the Jigsaw Man, which was really good. It was fantastic. So, you see all these, not overly silly figures, but you see these figures going back and forth. And then the auction finishes and said you sign with the publisher, but it's just say you don't get the money straight away. So you have to wait. So all those things you think about, I'm going to jack in my job, I'm going to buy a horse and do all these things. It doesn't happen because you have to wait. So for me, because I like securities, like I still kept on working as a solicitor, but also teaching the law school as well. So, you wait and wait and wait and wait. Then you get the first bit. But then as you said, you've got to start portioning the money off. Some goes to your agent, so you get your invoice and some's already gone. You've got to portion some off to the taxman. And as you said, if you've got foreign deals, you've got to sign all the paperwork. So you're waiting for paperwork from HMRC, who are rubbish. So they're going back and forth with paperwork. So you don't get it all at once. But when you do get it, I was like, I bought a new laptop. And I did go and see my parents in Grenada. I'm like, I'm going straight away because it's there. But you don't get it all at once. And like my nieces and my godchildren, they just think you're rich because they see your books in Tesco's, and that's what you have to tell them. No, you're not rich. You're really not rich.
If you ever do a school event, one of the questions are you a millionaire? I wouldn't be here if I was, kids. Julie, what's it been like for you? You're 9 books into a series now. So what's that been? Because it's one of these things where you didn't get a 9-book deal, did you? You get maybe 3 books to start with, and then they keep coming back for more. Is that how it's worked for you?
Yeah, well, as you said, I come from a TV and film background, and in some respects, I was very spoiled because, of course, it's very lucrative in the TV and film world compared to publishing. And I've worked on a series as well, EastEnders, for almost 20 years, and worked on other series as well. But I returned to EastEnders because it was like family, a whole group, 39 writers, obviously. You could just choose, when you wanted to do an episode or when you didn't want to. And of course, with that, it's the same kind of setup. You get some money to start your episodes and then money at the end. But with EastEnders too, and I'm just thinking back while I was listening to you, because there was an omnibus edition, you would get 80% repeat fee for that too, which would come along afterwards.
Nice.
So I'm thoroughly spoilt. And then I had always wanted to write a book, wrote the first Whitstable Pearl mystery. I'd always had an agent since I went professional, writing TV in 1989. And once I got the deal, I thought, well, this is fantastic. It's a 3-book deal. So that means they can't get rid of me before the third. But yet again, and what I'd done, without making it too much of a long story, but I thought that my ideal publisher for these crime novels was Constable and Robinson. But sadly, Robinson died before we'd done the deal. And then I thought, it's all going to fall apart. But then they said, we're going to continue. But then they got sucked up by Little Brown. And then I didn't know whether they were going to go for the books. But they did. They honoured the deal. But when it came to 3 years later, once the third book came out, they offered me less of an advance, even though they're a big publishing company.
Okay.
And the thing with that was I was thrilled to know that I could write 3 books and to have, that real run at attracting readers and getting them into your work. But I had to wait 3 years for each of those books, for all of those books to come out before I could see any money at all from sales. So if I hadn't been able to do anything else for money, I would have starved.
So let's talk about that, because that's royalties that you're talking about there. And you generally only get those royalties once you've earned out. And that means once you've made the publisher enough money to pay off your advance. And what they've done, certainly with me, and it sounds like they did with you, they have a thing called joint accounting, which is if book 1 does fantastically and earns out, you don't get any money until book 3 has been published and that earns out. So you might have a huge bestseller, but until book 3 comes out, you're not earning any money back on that. So it is, it is sporadic. It is a bit of a...
Well, and the other thing, of course, is that we're getting modest advances too. Yes. My cousin's actually married to Barry Hearn, the sports supremo, who recently brought out an autobiography, and his son is Eddie Hearn, the boxing promoter. Well, they got, they got a fortune. But all of those famous people with their biographies, they get £1 million for their advance. They're never expected to pay that back. They're never going to earn it out in royalties.
Well, I work for a publisher, and I would see some of these crazy deals go through, and they've got less crazy as time has gone on. Certainly when I was around in the early 2000s, it was the thing where the editor would go, this is what they want, this is what we have to. And it happened in fiction as well. They say, trust me, let's do this on a hunch. Trust my instincts, this will do well. And some did, some didn't. But what's happened in the last few years when I was at Orion is it became a lot more methodical, a lot more mathematical, where we would sit down at the acquisition stage and say, okay, what are we comparing this to? So we're doing Whitstable Pearl. What's similar out there in the market already? Let's look at how that's sold over a period of years, where it's sold, like routes to market. Does it sell better in Waterstones? Does it sell better in supermarkets? What have you? And we would make an offer based on that. So the offers got lower. And a lot of the celebrity ones get lower as well, because the thing with the big celebrity deals is you used to be able to earn that back from selling the serialization to the Sunday Mail or whatever. That doesn't really happen anymore. You used to sell those for hundreds of thousands of pounds, and there'd be a big colour supplement with an extract. But that kind of stopped happening because fewer people are reading newspapers, and it just doesn't have the same value. So but the crazy deals do still happen. And talking about, we mentioned as well royalties, and Pernille sort of touched on this. So for traditional publishing, so an author gets 10% of every hardback sold, and that's off the price received. That means, so if it is £20 and Amazon are selling it for £10, they only get 10% of £10. On paperbacks, it's 7.5%, and on ebooks, it's generally 25%. Apart from some of the digital first publishers, where you're getting 50%, aren't you? Or sliding
sliding up. Yeah, after you've hit, I think 10 is usually the mark, 10,000. But you were saying before about the advances. Do you not think that that's more sensible, that they're not quite so mad? Because if I had, my first deal, had my 2-book deal, I got an enormous advance, and it hadn't sold out, then going into a new contract, I could have bad track, really. And then if I was looking for a new agent or an agent at all, or they come back to look and say, well, is it worth giving Miller a new contract? Oh, she didn't actually earn it out on this for whatever reasons, wouldn't necessarily, anything can happen. There's so many things that have to align. Suddenly because I didn't earn out that advance, which could have been ludicrous in the first place because, I don't know, auction or something, then I'm the one that's bearing the bad track record. Absolutely. So is that not actually better?
No, absolutely. I mean, we had a cracking episode of the podcast a few episodes ago with David Lee Stone, who I think it was in the 90s or early 2000s, he got deals with Disney, worldwide deals that came to about £900,000. So, it was massive. But the book, he said the book tanked. I mean, it sold 100,000 copies, which sounds amazing. It's not going to wipe out £1 million advance.
No,
I wouldn't
So-
say no though.
So that's advances and royalties and how that works. Right.
I just want to say about the advances. I mean, because I've been doing this for so long, and it has been my full-time job for all of it thus far. Cross fingers. In the olden days, when your agent made an advance, they deliberately didn't want you to earn out. They wanted to make it big enough so that that would be really hard work for the publisher to earn it out. And then the idea is that they would keep working on your books and keep working on your career and keep building you as an author. The downside of lower advances is that if your book doesn't sell, and then off you go.
Yeah.
Bye.
Yeah.
So like as you said, it is for the author. I don't actually think it's so great.
No, and I think having no advance is not fun. And also because if they had invested in an advance, then there's more incentive for them to work on it, isn't it? Because they want their money back.
You become a key title, basically.
Yeah.
You become one, because when I left Orion, basically the people left behind were doing the job of about 3 people, and they're selling books right across the Hachette list, not just Orion anymore. So they're looking at those key titles, but anything below that is kind of sunk.
Yeah.
So it's really difficult to sell those. I think we're going to check. So Mr. D, you're sitting there very patiently. Do we have any questions from the folks online?
We certainly do. We certainly do. This is a really interesting one, actually. Steve Gowland has asked,
Hello, Steve.
has anyone that's willing to share their magic figure?
Oh no.
Well, I mean, I've lost 22 pounds since March. I've done a calorie-controlled diet. Stop! I've cut the hobnobs out, basically. That's, well, I mean,
Zero. That's
zero.
easy. Yeah.
Zero.
I won't share my magic. What I will tell you is that my first advance in 2001 was slightly higher than the last advance I was contracted to in 2020.
Wow.
So they really are going down, aren't they?
Yep.
I'm not showing mine.
No. I'll do it. I can't even remember. I think it was about 22 grand for the 3 Witches of Woodville books. And like I say, that's over 3. That sounds like a lot. It is a lot of money. And that's over 3 books. So I saw the last bit of that when Ghost of Ivy Barn was published last month. So that's all gone. I've spent it. So
Lego.
Yeah, and my first advance was Robot Overlords, which I shared with the film company. So we got 20 grand for that. So the film company got 10 grand of that, and I got 10 grand of that. So it's handy. It's nice. It's not life changing. I actually got a bit more from the German deal. The German publishers paid a little bit more.
But how many? When you say 22 grand for the 3 books, how many years worth of work is that?
It's about 3 years.
Yeah.
book, I would
So
say.
then, in that light, that's
Yeah.
not, is it?
Yeah.
Really?
But I was going to say, you don't really know what a good, when you're starting out, you don't know what a good number
No.
is unless you're dealing with someone saying, I'm going to give you £1 million for your book. Then, everyone's got that fantasy figure, what they'll do for £1 million. But when you're starting out, and especially when I was doing my course, the creative writing course back in 2016, we were being told that, no one gets over 5 grand for a book. So in your head, you're mentally thinking, well, I'm not going to get a lot, and I'll just have to carry on doing what I'm doing until I make it big somehow.
And I'll say that before I started writing the Whitstable Pearl Mysteries, I wrote a memoir for HarperCollins, and I got £20,000 advance for that. But which is considerably more than I've got as an advance for the crime novels. But the deal on that was so poor that even though it's still for sale now, and that was in 2010, I'd never earned a penny from the sales. So I got money for the advance, but nothing from the sales.
Yeah, and also
I can't work it
you
out.
might get a really big advance from your UK publishers or your German publishers, but then you go and sell to, I don't know, Brazil. I think I sold to Brazil, and you get like £1,000 if you're lucky, or €1,000 if you sell to Spain. And
My Russia deal was 1,500 quid.
yeah, it's very
Not
low.
seen a penny for
Yeah.
some reason.
I wonder why.
Nothing like-
Put it in the pipe.
I just did a Turkish deal as well, and a girl, again, not much money,
No.
but you know.
And then you got to convert it because the pound is so rubbish, and then you're like, well.
But it is very nice to see your books lined up on the shelves. And
Oh yeah,
I
definitely.
understand a word of them.
yeah.
I'm like, Greenwich. I recognise that.
The other thing is that with my agent, I'm still on. I know a lot of writers are on 15% that they pay to their agents these days, but because I've been with her for so long, since 1989, the deal then was 10%, so she only takes 10%. But on foreign deals, she takes more because of that. So you have that too. That's 20% gone.
Yeah.
So for the negotiation,
I took a leaf out of Mr. D's book and tried to negotiate that down. Failed miserably. I'm sure if I'd employed Mr. D, he would have done it. It would have worked. Okay. Any questions in the room? Sorry, what?
Can you walk back a little bit?
Walk back behind. Hello, yes.
I do a bit of translation. I was wondering, from English to German, how long is your book?
I don't. You know what? I don't know. I never even saw the translations, and I never had any kind of conversation with the translator. But the German Instagram bloggers seem to like it. So
I think mine's about the same.
Mine's much longer. Page-wise, yes, and everybody said that to me. My publisher at Little Brown said, when your book gets published in German, it will be considerably larger, and it is.
My Spanish one looks slightly larger because I only got copies of that the other day. They look slightly larger than the English one.
Well, I haven't counted. No, I haven't checked, but mine looks the same. But she has. I stalked her on Instagram and found her, the translator, and we have lovely chats now. But she did say there's not as many because I used the word wank puffin in the book. I said, well, I did say, what is the German word for that, please? And she said, actually, they make me take most of the swear words out in Germany, so it should be shorter.
Oh.
Really?
Yeah.
You take the swear words. Not you, not me. They take
They reduce the swear words.
Yeah.
So yes, I think.
apparently I'm blocking the talent.
Oh, stop. Move your figure that way.
Okay. Any other questions? Hello.
Sorry, I might be really ignorant question, but you talked about paying back in advance. Is that a thing?
Yeah, it's like you have to earn it out. So if I gave you £10 for, say, your lovely short story, I would need to, and I sold it at 10p a copy. I would need to sell enough. This is why I realised that I failed my GCSE level. I would need to sell enough in order to recoup the £10 before you started getting your 2p back in royalties.
Okay, but I wouldn't need to necessarily give you any of the £10.
I don't think.
Only if you
No.
don't.
Only if you
Only if you didn't
breach a contract.
breach a
Yeah.
contract or you
Yeah.
fail to deliver like a really, a publishable book.
It doesn't really happen much in fiction. It happens a lot with celebrity books,
Yeah.
where the celebrity suddenly realizes they don't want to tell that story and backs away out of the deal, and that has happened. Or you get it sometimes with true crime books where they realize they've libeled someone or whatever, and that gets very complicated as well. So but yeah. Okay, Mr. D, any more questions from the YouTubes?
Certainly, absolutely. What we'd love to know here, for all the celebrations that you do when you get a book deal, what is the best celebration you've ever done?
Oh, good one.
I flew to New York, but then I had an absolute panic when I was there because I flew to New York with one of my best friends and we did the whole doing cocktails and going restaurants and doing shopping. And then one morning, because my flight, they cancelled our flights, we had to spend another day in New York. And then I was reading this article, came up on Twitter, clicked on it, and this woman came up saying, I spent my entire advance in New York and drinking cocktails and now I'm sitting here like, now I have nothing.
I remember that.
I'm lying in bed and I'm like, oh my God, what have I been doing for the past 5 days? I honestly went into a panic. I mean, I didn't spend it all, but I'm reading this woman's story and she spent all my, on cocktails and I didn't think, and then I had no money left and I still had to deliver the books and I had to write. And I was like, oh my God, what can I bring back? But no, and my friend's like, what is wrong with you? She's like, you're going to be fine. So I had that little panic, but I think that was like that was the first fun thing.
That
I
was a
did
good
with
one.
my
That was
advance.
a good
Yeah.
Who else? What other celebrations?
I got a big advance for the Bronte Mysteries from the States, and that was exciting. And I did buy a piece of jewelry, and I always buy a piece of jewelry per book deal, but I bought quite a big piece of jewelry that time.
Well, I didn't get an advance, so no. But we did a little party at Waterstones in Amersham. That was the last book. That was just, cupcakes and beers. And I think my husband's just turned 50, so his present is being funded by Germany if the money ever comes out. Yeah. So that's as good as that gets.
Julie, how did you celebrate your first deal?
Well, with alcohol, of course. I did the poor woman's version of your story there. I decided to throw a party at the Neptune pub, the old Neptune pub on the beach. And Darren, the landlord, allowed me, he said he would close for 2 or 3 hours. So it would be a private party. And we invited everybody. And we put some money behind the bar. And then he decided to keep going because we kept putting more money behind the bar. And we just went on and on and on. And it got to 12 o'clock at night. My husband had gone home by that time. And I left. I think I was the last person there. Darren gave me another large Pinot for the evening. And I actually fell over on the way home in a fur coat. I remember looking up. I was in Nelson Road looking up and recognising people looking out of their bedroom windows. Woman in her late 60s rolling around on the floor, and I thought, well, I'm well insulated because it was winter. But I got home and my husband was in bed, and I said, I don't think this is what J.K. Rowling does.
I think I've read about people like you in the Whitstable Facebook. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, well, look, we've talked about how we get money from publishers. Let's talk about the other ways that we earn money as authors. I mean, there are things like maybe teaching or conferences or panels or retreats. Who's had any experience of that? Here we go, Rowan.
I teach at retreats or lead retreats rather than teach at them often, all over the place, in Yorkshire, in France, in London, and I've always enjoyed doing that. I taught at Faber Academy for a good 3 or 4 years and Guardian masterclasses, and I think it's just a very good way to underpin your income as a writer. And also the really good thing about it is it kind of keeps you fresh because you're meeting other people and you're listening to their hopes and dreams and their aspirations, and you're doing what you can to help them go on the way without telling them it's all hopeless. And so it gives you sort of renewed optimism in the joy of the process. And I love it, yeah. And I also mentor people on an individual basis, so for sort of 18 months. And that's really rewarding because you then get to see them kind of come to fruition and then go to agents and more often than not get signed on the dotted line. That's very rewarding.
Nice.
Yay. Well, something I mentioned, I'm a solicitor, but I took a break from doing that, but I still teach in a law school, so I do that on a freelance basis. So this time next week I'll be teaching. I call them the baby lawyers, so I'm doing that. So I do that on a freelance basis. And as you're saying, also I do coaching for new writers. And the best thing, I had 2 of my mentees, and they signed with agents, and they got their publishing deals. One had their first book out last month, which was brilliant. So I'm doing that, and as you said, the events, so doing all the Harrogates and Crime Fest, you do your panel, so you get your little pocket money comes in from that. So that's just how I'll keep it going, because I think everyone wants security in this publishing world. As much as we love it, I don't feel it's very secure. So until I do get the J.K. Rowling money, I'll still be teaching the baby lawyers. Yeah.
We need the baby lawyers.
We need the baby lawyers. Yeah, very important.
Pernille?
I think really, no, I haven't been applying myself, obviously. The panel I was on at the RNA, I had money from that I could use against going to the RNA. So actually no monies that I have earned, but I
it
have
pays for itself, doesn't
Yeah.
it? Yeah.
had some back as well. Also, I kind of think I'm still new. I get a lot of imposter syndrome, and I don't necessarily feel that I have anything to teach yet. No, I don't. But I have new writer friends who I am happy to have a chat with on WhatsApp for an hour and just impart the things I've learned. And I'm really thrilled to see some of them kind of coming through, and that's lovely. But I just don't have the confidence to think that I have something to teach for real money yet. But that's just me. So that's
It hasn't stopped me.
No, and mine happened completely by accident with the coaching new writers, because we were in the middle of lockdown and I got bored because I delivered my book and I had nothing really to do. And then I think it was during the whole Black Lives Matters and diversity in publishing thing was becoming more alive. And I just put out on Twitter, if any new writers, I'll mentor you for do a one-off session or 3 months. And that's how it all started.
Fantastic.
This is great.
Yeah, it was
Brilliant.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Julie.
Yes, well, the only teaching that I've ever done was I did a week's residential writing course as a tutor at the Arvin Foundation.
Right.
And that was way out in the countryside for a whole group of people. It was the hardest thing I've ever done in my whole life, because we never stopped. In the evening, we were there, we had to cook supper, so everybody would be talking about their own projects the whole time. And then I'd be getting stuff at 10 or 11. I don't know whether it's because I just don't feel I've been writing prose long enough. My Whitstable Pearl books only came out, first one in 2015. But even after writing TV and scripts and screenplays and what have you, like you have, I just feel I'm still learning so much and I just can't do it. But the other way of making money, of course, is I am asked to do a lot of talks, which is great because I never actually dry up. So there's always but then I didn't like to charge any local groups for talks at all. Yeah. I just ask for a minicab fare or what have you. These days what I do is I do ask for a modest fee, whatever they can afford, and I give that to charity. But I find it very difficult to actually coach anyone. I always just want to say, just write. Don't keep coming to me or anyone else for advice. Just write, because you can get really stuck where you're just doing course after course and never getting any work done. It's a great excuse never to write, isn't it?
Just say applications for the Academy. There's still time to sign up. Mr. D, any questions from the ether?
We do. We have a fantastic question from Angela Seeners. Angela wants to know,
Angela.
what are the best publication day gifts you've had from your agents or publishers?
Can I just say, up until recently, they always sent me booze. I stopped drinking when I was 15. My wife loves it. But I did after it happened 3 times, I said, I don't drink. So, it gets my wife drunk and that's fine, but I don't drink. So I got chocolate last time, and that's just after I went on a diet. I'm going to say Lego next time. But
my digital publisher, and I love them, and I will say I utterly adore the team. They don't give presents on publication day. So if you're in it for that, no. I did have an agent when I started out. The lovely Federica she has left agency, so I'm without an agent, but she did send me a bunch of flowers on my first publication day. So that's what I've had.
Flowers and booze, usually. Very, very welcome flowers and booze. So please continue. I did get a lovely cushion with a picture of the Bronte parsonage on it for the first publication of the Bronte Mysteries, which was very nice, and is on my Victorian sofa, which was the prop sofa that Emily Bronte died on in To Walk Invisible.
wow.
I'm so proud of that, Sophie. It's had a more successful career than me.
I've only been published twice now, so I'm with
Only.
Only. I'm with HQ though, so they always give flowers. And chocolates. But then I got taken out for lunch. So I'm good as long as you feed me. Like, I can sacrifice flowers if you feed me.
Yeah.
And also, did you get the parties, the annual parties, Christmas parties?
So I'm in HarperCollins. So yeah, we have the party, which is like the high point, especially if you're with one of the smaller imprints like I am. That is the high point, and is such a joy, and you make the most of it. And it's actually an incentive to write because you can't go if you haven't had a book published that year. So you've got to, and I do remember thinking, oh God, I've got to write because I won't be getting invited to the party. But so that is that. But we also know that there's some imprints at HarperCollins who get a Christmas party at the Ivy. And so we are aware that not all imprints within the same family are treated the same. So we know.
Yeah, I'm with HQ at HarperCollins. Very nice.
You are really quiet. Yeah, who's seen you?
It was an amazing party. Anyway, moving on.
Julie, any gifts?
Well, I'm really worried now because I'm just thinking back, and I don't think I got any flowers or any booze at all for several years until we got the TV deal. And then I got a lovely bottle of champagne and flowers, and I just got flowers this time, but no champagne. And that's because I think they've heard about my drink problem. And no parties either. I've not been invited to a party.
It's an event.
Yes, it is.
You mentioned the TV deal there, and Wassmer Pulp second series on its way. Congrats on that. Fantastic. Superb news. This is one of those things that it's kind of it's like getting the bonus ball in the lottery is TV or film rights money. The rights to my books are still available. All of them, even the one that started as a film. So, has anyone had their stuff optioned?
Yeah, I'm quite optioned. I'm quite highly optioned, but not yet. What is the stage after being optioned? Greenlit. I'm not yet greenlit.
So you're in development hell.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
I'm in development.
You're in development.
Not hell, I'm just in development. But it happened really quickly because I signed with my publishers in March 2019, and then it got optioned, and I signed, I think it was August 2019. Wow. So it happened in a very, very short space of time. And even that's a completely different, I was going to swear, it's a completely different head.
That's right. We already have, what was it, a wank? A wank puffin. Apologies, online listeners.
You're right, because you've already gone through this whole thing of because I was in an auction, meeting different publishers and dealing with submission and all of that. And then you kind of do the same thing again with when you go into options. I had 2 different production companies who are interested in the Jigsaw Man. So you go through this whole thing again of meeting different producers and hearing their ideas about your book. And it's all very exciting. And I just think to myself, I prefer being in court. Like, I know what I'm doing with court. I can navigate court. But it's all very exciting. And then it got optioned. And then you just wait.
Yeah.
And it's just the waiting. So, when you get paid for it, which is a nice thing. So I just got
also
some money the other day.
You can say,
nice.
oh, yes, I have several novels under option. And you feel quite special. But that's it.
Yeah.
The option money, is it better or worse than the publisher money? Is this idea that TV and film money is like...
It would be better if it gets made.
Yeah.
That's what I would say. Yeah. When it's greenlit, it gets better.
The money.
It's like they give you a little bit of... It's a bit.
Yeah.
Here's a deposit.
Yes.
And you can play around with the deposit a bit and it's nice. But then when it gets...
When they renew it, it's nice because you get a little bit more money.
And it's always a surprise. I got one at Christmas last time. I was like,
oh, nice.
When does an option last for? What's the longest option before something was made?
Generally, you get, they tend to take out a 2-year or maybe a 3-year option, and then they have to renew it after that as well. So it comes in, again, it comes in stages. You don't get it all in one go. Because it can, first of all, they need to hire a screenwriter to adapt it. Then they need to be happy with the script. They're never happy with the script. Then maybe the production company sells it to a TV, a broadcaster, or a streamer generally these days. Then it becomes developed some more. You attach a showrunner maybe. It can drag on for years and years, but they option again and they option again, they option again. Julie, it kind of It feels like it's happened really quickly for you. Was that the case, or did it drag on?
Well, first of all, getting optioned, my original option was for 18 months. And it's a company called Buccaneer who make Marcella with Anna Friel. And they really loved the books and were very, very committed, to making the series. It was just really finding the right broadcaster for it. So I was thrilled because my option money was actually more than my advance from Hachette. So for that 18-month period, thank you very much. That's lovely. We're going to make a TV series. Brilliant. And my publisher, was thrilled, but then said, well, lots of books get optioned, blah, blah, blah. They didn't think too much of it. And of course, after the 18-month period, you think, are they going to renew the option? Have they got anywhere with finding a broadcaster or what have you? They did keep me up to date regularly on it all. And then they renewed the option. And then they renewed it again. So over a 18-month period, I got 3 lots of option money, which really helped to,
Yeah.
It helped me to fund the Pinot. Literally. So that was amazing. But and they were in talks with ITV, for example, but they couldn't. It was dragging on really because of the broadcasters, and they went to somebody else. But finally, they went to a streaming service, Acorn, who are part of AMC, who made Breaking Bad and everything. I mean, they had lots of money because it's an American company, and then it moved very quickly. They were, on it, and they wanted it to come out as quickly as possible. So from that moment on, 6 episodes, fantastic, just brilliant. I've now got security, and the icing on the cake was when it did well, so they are now going into a second season. And of course, the beauty of that is it boosts the sales of your book. So then your publisher's happier with you, even though they still don't give me the champagne. I'm going to get you a bottle of champagne.
Just sort of like drop them a note about that.
I know. I'm going to see Martin later. He's got a bottle of
Let's talk about some of the other ways we might make money. Has anyone thought about selling direct? Because this is something we're seeing. Certainly, indie authors are starting to do it. So people like Joanna Penn, she's now got a store. She uses Shopify to sell direct to customers. Queeve McDonald, I bought a book from his shop. He just launched a Shopify shop. I bought a book from him, and I got a signed copy from him saying, "What are you doing? Buy my books." Love Queeve. So it's that personal touch, the thing that Amazon can't do. Has anyone considered that? Is anyone thinking about that?
I've done odds and, there's people have just emailed me or tweeted me to say, could they get and we've just kind of, not a store, nothing, I'm not tech savvy in any way. And so I haven't set anything like that up. But, they've sent me a PayPal payment. I can then sign a book and send it out by post. Yeah. So I've done that kind of thing. And actually, you make more money with that. So obviously I can get a reduced a discount from my publisher, so I get a nice box full, and then if I go and do a talk somewhere,
like tonight.
No, that's Martin gets the cash. Yes. But if I go to a talk, I did a talk in a writers group, and it was Valentine's Day, and of course I said to everybody they make great presents for romance books, and so all the men came scurrying because they forgot, and I made quite a lot that evening. That was great. So yeah, it can be done, and I know writers who, if their books go into the works, which is like the cheapest they'll be, they'll go and fill their boots with their own books, and then and then you keep them in your cupboard, and then if you're giving them out, you're not losing so much money.
When the book people went out of business, so my wife Claire, she wrote a series of children's books for young readers about gardening. There were 3 of them, and the book people, I think, had all the stock. So when they were closing down, she bought them all. So, so whenever she does events, she's got that stock, which is why you can't get it anywhere else. She's got all the stock, and you make a, it's a kind of all profit.
Absolutely.
The main problem I'd have with running my own shop is that I can literally barely organise myself out of bed. So And also I do really like booksellers and bookshops. She smiles winningly. So if I do an event, I always would rather have a bookseller there to do it, to kind of sell the books on for me, I think.
I haven't done big events like that, but they would come for. This is me and the WI. Well, no, WI. It's just a small writers group. So no, you're right. To be able to send them to the bookshops is the right thing to do. Yes, but I think if you're doing a talk in a small group, then they want to. They want
one of those little card readers for about 20 quid.
Oh yeah.
But I was going to say, because I self-published before I got the publishing deal, and it's a lot of work when you're self-publishing. I think people sometimes forget. I always say the writing bit's the easy bit, but then you have to market the book, and that's the hard work. So the very first book I wrote and I self-published, that's still out there. So it's on Amazon. It's on Amazon. So you still so I still get like the bits of money coming, which is nice. But in terms of selling directly, part of my writing coaching, I created these planners. Because I told you before, I'm very much a planner. I can't, if I pants a book, if I just write it without a plan, I wouldn't be sitting here because I'll be writing my first book. So I very much have a plan. So I created these planners. And I saw those directly. And that's actually quite easy.
What's that, through Etsy or?
I did it on Etsy, but Etsy take too much money of you. But I do it direct from my website and through the site that hosts it. And once it's up, it's fine to just do their PayPals and all sorts of things.
I saw yesterday Jeevani. Now, Jeevani Chirika, who also writes as Rhoda Backstar, might be watching. Hi, Jeev. She tweeted yesterday, she started selling T-shirts. And if you're a writer, they're brilliant because they got slogans like, time to Google how to write a novel again. And things like that, and all the things that she has said when she starts writing a book. And she was saying on Twitter that she makes more from selling her T-shirts. She makes about £2.50 for each T-shirt she shells on the seashore than she does from any of her books. So merch, is anyone doing
that's a fantastic idea. I don't have a business head at all, and with selling your own books, I mean, I've got lots of writer friends who do sell their own books at events and what have you, but I've never done it because my publisher said I can buy stock from them for half price, but then you get charged for the postage and packing. I thought, by the time this comes through, and the main point that I didn't want to do it is because they said it doesn't then count against your sales. And obviously what I wanted them to do was to keep me on as author. I didn't want to be selling like 1,000 of their books half price or whatever that weren't getting counted. I wanted them to have the sales, even if it meant me going out and buying the book, which I've done.
So that would be Nielsen sales that counts. It still comes off your bottom line. It still helps you.
I mean, you get the money in your pocket, but I know what you mean, because you want to see your book up in that top 50.
And I didn't think that I'd be getting them that cheap. I mean, obviously the book people, that was fantastic because they were so cheap. But and so I've never done it. I've always just thought, well, no, let the bookshops take it, and then it registers, like you say, with Nielsen. I mean, all that's very complicated too, I think, for people to understand, isn't it?
That's probably a whole episode in itself.
It is.
I've done an episode on Nielsen on the podcast way back with Sarah Moran, who worked for Nielsen. But that basically the different, shops like this and independent bookshops and Amazon, those sales go through Nielsen and they count towards the Sunday Times bestsellers. Though some independent shops aren't signed up to it and some retailers aren't signed up to it, so those sales don't count. But those are the things that certainly in that first week of publication, I used to look after Amazon. So if Amazon got books early and sold them early, we were like, oh no, that 200 copies could have made the difference between you getting in the top 10 and not getting in the top 10.
So the only ones don't, if I get it 3 days before publication date, the pre-orders count, don't they?
Yeah, pre-orders count, that's fine.
Okay,
it's if they ship it in the previous week. So if it gets, if you put, I'm getting flashbacks to my old job. If you put an embargo on it, Amazon can still dispatch it early so that you get it on day one, particularly if it's a Tuesday publication. Because a lot of American authors are published on Tuesday instead of a Thursday. You have to ensure they don't sign embargoes, but they honour them, and those sales don't register until the week of publication. Why do we publish on Thursdays? Supermarkets, because that is a range change day, and we all shifted towards a Thursday publication date. So that's why. And in the States, it's a Tuesday It's a nightmare because if there's a new Michael Conley out and we want to get them in the top 10, we had to make sure all the retailers didn't sell them early, even though we gave them at least 10 days in advance. So anyway, Mr. D, any more questions from the interwebs?
We certainly do. Proper Nico has asked, is Twitter a reliable platform for promoting your books? And if not, what's your favourite?
Right, social media. Okay, Julie, you're more of a campaigner on social media, aren't you? I mean,
Yeah, I mean, I write books, but I probably spend more time campaigning on different issues than I spend writing these days. So I've had to really get to grips with social media, and especially Facebook. And obviously what's happened over the years is Facebook has reduced your exposure. So whereas, if you had 1,500 followers on Facebook, you'd be reaching them all at one point with a message. They reduced that to around 20 or 30, and because they want you to pay to promote to promote all your posts, and especially if you've got a business page. And of course, now Instagram is owned by Facebook Meta. So the same thing's happening there. Although what I've discovered is if you put up on Instagram footage, it gets a hell of a lot of views, much more than So I don't think that they've kind of done that, restricted your reach yet.
No, your reels, because I can put a video up on the reels, and it will go mad. You can see like 20,000 views, and I might just put a little video up on normal Instagram post, and it might get maybe like 100 and something. So I still haven't worked out it out completely. I mean, I went on TikTok. I did that. I'm on TikTok.
I am an enthusiastic TikToker.
You post it.
I'm a fully middle-aged TikToker going for it.
Are you dancing though? I'm not doing that.
I don't do dancing. I do. I don't. I just do it for fun because I don't think you can't really, try and plan to go viral on TikTok because nobody understands how it works. So I just do it essentially to embarrass my 21-year-old daughter.
It's totally worth it.
But it is totally worth it. I loved social media, and I'm when it first came around, I was sort of sucked fully into the whirlpool of the brilliance of social media, and being able to be connected directly to your readers and directly to other writers was absolutely amazing. In the last 10 years, it's so different. It's changed enormously. Just from a practical point of view, you were saying that you just can't reach people in the organic way that you used to be able to. But also, it's quite scary and quite dark sometimes. And I think it's a different place now than it used to be.
I don't know if you can gauge how useful it is for selling books. It's good for engaging, I said, with readers and other writers. I've made really good friends through Twitter and Instagram, frankly, other writer friends. So it's really good for those purposes. And I think I'm everywhere. So Twitter, Facebook, Instagram and TikTok. But mine is very straightforward. It's book stuff, comic book stuff, football, and that's it. Really, I don't get involved in any of the madness. You said all the dramas. I can't.
Opinion.
I have no opinion other than I support Crystal Palace, and that's all you need to know.
Well, it's interesting because the question was about Twitter, and I've always considered that Twitter is the writers.
I love Twitter.
Forum, really.
Twitter is great for networking and for meeting other people and agents and writers and publishers. But I don't think it works if you use it as a promotional platform in a very bald-faced way. You can't sort of just go buy my book.
Instagram and
what I do a lot of is I don't have a blog myself, but I'm part of a local community news blog that we write about everything. Then anybody can, but I'll write articles about events that I've done, like my launch event last Thursday. Put up lots of photographs, etc. Partner people, like the RNLI last Thursday for the venue, and then I'll put those out on Twitter.
Yeah.
And usually, you know, people, you just put please retweet and they do. And I've often found Twitter to be really rewarding because I've met lots of writers. on Twitter that way.
That's what's nice
Which is
about
good.
Twitter. You get that flywheel effect.
Yeah.
But it's like a big old Chinese whispers. You put something up. I mean, I've had it today a lot. You know, put one thing up and it's gone again and again and again. And the RNA, they use it as well on a Tuesday. But you put up your Tuesday news, and then if you put one up, you then retweet everybody else who puts one up. Most people do it, some don't. But and then you can get a lot of traction on that. So that's a nice thing about Twitter when it's used in that way. And I've absolutely met a lot of people who, when I meet them now, I think I've known them for ages, and I've actually found out, no, I've never met them before. It's just actually, I know them from Twitter.
And I've had some great work opportunities that have come through Twitter as well.
Amazing.
And I've often, you know, as a crime writer, I've got a member of the Crime Writers Association, always tag them in. You know, I mean, obviously on Twitter as well, you put an image up and you can tag 10 people in.
Yeah.
So I'll tag in the Crime Writers Association, you know, my publisher, whatever. Just put at the end of it, please retweet. Usually everybody does. So that's 10 times 10
as well.
Yeah.
If I had an issue with constellations in my new book, and I just at the end, you know, when you've been writing happily, not checking any facts whatsoever, and you think, oh, did I ever check that you can actually have those 2 stars in the same place at the same time from this place? And so I thought, I didn't even know where to start. So I just put that out on Twitter. I had 4 or 5 people come within minutes saying this website, just literally put in your postcode and it'll tell you what you can see on this date 4 years ago. And they were brilliant, and they just saved a moment. And where would I have found those people otherwise?
I love Twitter for a random expert.
Amazing.
Yes. A brilliant expert.
I'm saying yours is so much nicer. She's looking at constellations. I'm looking for pathologists and people that, you know, rat boys because I know they are. They do.
I got a train timetable for a Sunday in 1846 on the next part. Thank you to you, sir.
Poison someone with
Any questions from the room, folks? Yes.
Yeah. What about the negativity side of social media? So if people are criticising something that you may have written or something that you may have done, how do you cope with that? Because I know if you get a bad review, it's like, oh, it's so bad.
If it's a bad review, you really hope they don't tag you, because then you should.
I'll just share with you.
Go on.
Okay, so Instagram, which is my favourite social media platform, generally speaking, and often get tagged in posts about books, which is lovely because they're usually 99.9% of the time like, love this book. And then I got tagged in one that said, oh God, this book is awful, it uses made up words, and reading it makes me want to bleed from my eyes.
No!
So
Sorry about that. Really bad day.
direct messaged this young person. I didn't get into a fight. I direct messaged them and I said, thanks for reading my book, but you know, you don't have to tag me. You know, you have your right to your opinion, but you don't have to tag the author in that review. It's a bit rude, actually. And she was like, well, if I didn't tag you, how else would you know? Well, you I was like, well, I don't need to know because it's not going to make any difference to the way that I write. And she said, well, and she got very upset. She was, well, I think you're being very rude. And I was like, so what you're saying is you don't like my bad review of your bad review. How else would you know? Then she blocked me.
The beatings will continue until morale improves.
So I just think you like on social media, people, because you're on social media, people feel like they have access to you. Because they feel like they have access to you, they're not going to mind if I tag you in on a really bad review. But actually, no, I do mind. Yeah. So I think I said loads of times, but I won't read any. Not that I'm being a diva, but I won't read anything over than a 5 or 4 star because I don't need that negativity in my life. Yeah. So if there's anything else on Twitter or as in maybe on Instagram, you tend to get tagged in on reviews, not necessarily on Twitter.
Yeah.
So if there's a bad one, I really didn't like it. I don't see what the fuss is about. I'm like, well, good for you. Keep scrolling. Yeah, I just scroll on.
My hashtag Mark's Day, there's a town in Ontario called Mark's Day. And I know they have regular yoga classes every Tuesday, and there's still space available because I get tagged on all of those. Yeah.
It's when you get emails. I got an email the other day from someone questioning, like, well, I don't think you've used like the correct legal terminology. And I'm like, here we go. Literally,
Is it a baby lawyer?
no, it wasn't a baby lawyer. It was the other one. It was a police officer, and I was like, normally I wouldn't engage, but I was like, let me just tell you. So they got a very, very long email. Come, how dare you? I've been doing this for like 16 years. Do not come for my legal expertise.
Generally, I make the choice actually not to read any reviews, whether
Yeah.
they're good or bad, because, you know, as I love reviews, thank you for reviewing my work, please keep doing it. But it just does mess with your headspace,
Yes, it does.
whether they're good or bad. It just messes with your headspace.
Especially when you're I'm writing book 3 now, so the last thing
Yeah.
I'm doing is looking, because so the binding room came out last month. So the last thing I'm doing is spending my time looking through reviews when I've got to deliver a book next week. So
I can't help. It's like, you know, when you have a bad tooth and you poke it with your tongue. Yeah. I can't help it.
You do it.
Oh yeah.
I was on a retreat some months ago, and Liz Fennick was there, and she is so lovely. And I was talking about reviews, about the fact I can't read them because they just stoke my imposter syndrome. I'm a critic who's a bitch already, you know. She loves that stuff. And I said, Liz, do you read yours? She goes, oh yeah, every morning with my coffee. It's my morning routine. She does. She goes through all no, and she says, I've learned so much from it.
A few of us are masochists. Yeah. Doug, how are we doing for time?
7:30.
It is 7:30 now.
7:30.
So that clock is right. Good. Okay. Right. I guess we've got to start thinking about wrapping things up. Mr. D, any final questions from the ether?
We have an aspirational question here. TV series or movie deal?
Oh, Netflix. Give me Netflix. I want Ozark. That's what I want. I want that whole.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Julie, you kind of
TV series all the way. Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah,
Okay.
you 6 episodes and another 6 and another 6.
I did a film degree, so I would naturally think cinema, lovely, but now I'm seeing that you've got more space, you've got more time, you can really get more into. So yeah, I'm kind of leaning towards that actually. Yeah.
I would like a TV series, but also I still haven't given up on my 10-year-old ambition to win an Oscar. So just saying, we're working on it.
Okay. Well, I mean, how you still got gas in your tank? You still want to keep going, or shall we wrap this up?
I can keep going.
Yeah.
Can I just ask a quick
Yes.
Because I know you said you're still working, doing your solicitor and stuff like that. Does anyone else just do it full time? Just right.
I do.
Yeah, at the moment, I don't know if it
I have a patron in my husband. I'm a mum first and foremost. My kids are now getting to the point where they're about to leave home, so I can see within the next year. And the plan was always to get some books published, and so I had a foundation, and then once they had scattered, then I would hit the ground running in theory. You know, I am so much slower at writing than I ever thought I would be. So that's not quite panned out quite how, but I'm it's beginning, it's there. But yeah, I couldn't do it without my husband supporting me. Absolutely.
And I'd say, you know, having worked in film and TV before publishing, I was really shocked, you know, at how little authors generally earn, and can be really, you know, well known and very respected, and living on very little and having to make ends meet. And it reminds me a bit of the old days. Remember before payment for MPs? The only people that could actually afford to be an MP was somebody with their own income. And then they decided to pay MPs so that anybody could become an MP. And of course, now they pay them too much for doing too little. But you know, if you're a writer, it's almost as if you have to, you know, you know, if you come from a privileged background and you've got your own income, you can, of course, you know, it's a wonderful hobby. But for most people, it's a real struggle, and especially for women, you know, bringing up small children. I don't know how they do it.
And I mean, I would like to write full time, but also I like having the option of being able to leave my desk and going to do something different. Because, you know, even if I go, so next week when I go and teach a course for 3 days, I'm out of my house and I'm engaging with people. You know, during the pandemic, I hated it, not for the fact that I wasn't able to write, but the fact that I didn't have access to people and I couldn't engage with people. And I realised this is why I love doing criminal law so much, because I love that interaction. So I would love to be able to write full time, but I'm happy with this hybrid thing. Yeah.
I'm a massive introvert and I don't really like people. So that's not true. I like all of you. I love my job. I love not talking to people apart from my family and my dogs, and I like sitting on my own writing stories, but it is quite hard to keep doing only that.
It sort of blows hot and cold.
Yeah. Cycles.
Yeah, because I had a very good 2020 because I had a film shoot and I had that day one of film shooting where I got a lot of money on one day, the most money I've ever had, and it was basically 2 years' wages. That was 2 years ago. So, you know, so it was woohoo. But it's like, no, let's calm down, because with the Robot Overlords money, you asked us about celebrations. We went to Disneyland, didn't we? That was great. Yeah. Blew that money. But you know, this time we're like, calm down. We need to actually live on this. So yeah, it blows hot and cold, and it's very, very cold at the moment.
Very cold.
As you said too, you know, there is this sort of need for balance. You know, I mean, I always feel I'm writing better and more productively if I've got 2 books on the go, you know, like I have now, because you move away from one and you go to the other. But otherwise, you know, you get that displacement tactic of never having such a tidy house as when you've got a deadline and you're meant to be
I
writing.
never have a tidy house.
But you know, if you can create some balance where you can, as you say, move away from writing to something else, you come back and you can be much more productive, I think.
Yeah, because I think freelance works for me on that basis. If I was working full time, like going to court and all that stuff, it would be hard, because I've done that and writing a book, and that was just, I said, in teaching and marking exam papers and trying to deliver a draft, and I still don't know how I got through that week in 2018. So it's still burned in my brain. February 2018. I'm traumatized from that week.
Well, the other thing is that when you're writing full time, you're not just writing, because as soon as a book comes, I mean, you finish your book and then you've got all the copy editing to get through, all the proof editing to get through. There might be cover decisions, all of that, and then you've got to market it too, and then you've got to go and do events. So you know, there's a lot to it, isn't it?
And you've got to do something on every social media platform every day.
Well, this is something that came up on Twitter, and I won't name the author, but it was an author that's I think a New York Times bestseller, and they said, look, marketing is not our job. Okay, they said that they were sent emails from their publisher saying, here are some tips for marketing, and they said, look, it is not our job, you know, but is it?
It's in my contract.
I think social media's changed it.
Yeah.
Before social media, you had no access to people, so it was the publisher's job. But now with social media, when readers can get directly in contact with you, and, you know, and bookshops can get in touch with you, everyone can get in touch with you. It's now, you've now taken on part of that responsibility.
And you talk about the sort of the lead titles that that get a lot of the marketing budgets and publishers, and if you're not one of those lead titles, then
you're not going to be on the side of a bus.
And Mark Stay, you gave me a wonderful piece of advice when my book came out, and you interviewed me for a bestseller experiment, and that was about. And I said I seem to be ignored by the publisher. You know, I'm just new, and what did you tell me to be?
Be the squeaky wheel.
The squeaky wheel with your publisher. Don't complain too much, but keep on squeaking all the time. I'm here.
Yeah, give them, just remind them you exist every now and then, because they, like I say, they're working across a major one of the big 5 or 4, however many are left, will publish 60, 70 books a month.
Yeah.
So you've got to remind them that you exist.
And I always say, you know, next Thursday, it's another book being published, as another debut out there. So,
but also you can give something to this marketing that nobody else can. I mean, I have been on. I've had little films going out in Germany. You know, things that I've made that I've sent them. They've asked me bloggers questions. I'm now sending little films back. No one else can do that. And if it's actually in my contract that I have to do as much as I feel I can do. Really? It's quite vague, but you know, it's you know, nothing firm. But I do have to take part, which is, I think, okay, because again, I can do things that no one else It's like if you sell a house, you can sell that house in a way that an estate agent who doesn't live there that can't. And so I think for me, and Untitled Chapter have been amazing for this run up for my launch. You know, the things they've done a 10-day kind of a read along with bloggers, where I then have been part of making those questions. I've then retweeted and I've then answered bloggers, and they've had, you know, kind of contact with me that they wouldn't normally have. It's not really been a hardship. They've been lovely. But no one else can do that. I can do that. And I wouldn't want, like, in 3 weeks' time, if it tanks, to go, well, maybe I could have done something there.
Yeah.
And, oh, no, that was their department. I wasn't, no, that's beyond me or below me to do that. But I think, actually, if I spent some time doing that, I'm investing in my own book. Why would I not do it? It's not actually costing me anything.
No, and I think that was one of the things about the pandemic, because, you know, the Jigsaw Man came out February, well, last year, right in the middle of a pandemic. So no bookshops were open, so I couldn't go anywhere and promote the book. But then, you know, online media, like Zoom. So the amount of book clubs I joined via Zoom, and the amount, because it then came out in the States, and I kept forgetting how big the States is and the time difference. So I was like 2 o'clock in the morning doing book clubs, you know, in California. So it was good, you know, having that access to readers and social media in that respect. That's how you market yourself also.
And also, I think that that publishers, you know, they've got all the resources if they're big publishers. If you're complaining to them about, I'm not marketing my book, they'll get fed up with you. But if you actually say, I've got a great idea, how about this?
Yes.
So welcome that, you know, even if it's writing your own press release, it saves somebody else to it. They can do another grumpier author's press release, it frees them up. And the same with artwork, you know, I come up with the ideas for posters or whatever, and they're happy to do it, but they won't do it unless I come up with it. You know, they're too busy.
I did the same when I was painting the Jigsaw Man, and I just went out one morning with my phone, posted photographs of scenes in the Jigsaw Man. So where body parts were found, which is like where I live, because they're in locations. So, you know, I took photos of the river, and I posted them on Twitter, and Publishers Marketing got in touch. Oh, can we put together a whole video? So, you know, all that sort of thing works. But I still want to be on the side of a bus. So I'm just going to keep saying it.
It's an ambition.
I want to be on the side. I want to be on the
Mr. D, add that to your academy, on the Academy of Lists and Achievements, your Netflix series, Side of a Bus.
Yes. Amazing.
Let's go to one last question, I think, from the internet. Mr. D.
Absolutely, yes. Favourite story of your favourite superfan?
I don't know if I have a super fan.
No. You're a lovely fan.
Rowan's gone quiet.
Here you go. Well, can you share or not?
I mean, there's been a few. I can't really share most of them, but I will say that I did an event 3 or 4 years ago, and there was a couple with the audience, and afterwards, after the event, they came very enthusiastic to have their book signed. It was lovely, but then I realised it was the gentleman of the couple that my reader, and he asked someone else to take a photo of me, him, and his wife, and he said, "Last, I've got a photo of my 2 favourite women." It was awkward.
Anything less cringy?
Scary. I've got nice fans.
Yeah. I have a library talk where the guy got up and he said he thought it was so lovely now that women had their voices being heard, and then spoke for the next 4 minutes about his own poetry. And they had to stop him and say, "Should we move on?" Yeah. So
I have a super fan.
Yeah.
I have a super fan. As I say, I do a lot of talks, and I love doing that. And I was invited to do a talk for a book group in Whitstable, in the penthouse flat, this wonderful property that overlooks Tankerton Slopes and the sea. It's just fantastic. I went along that. I mean, it wasn't just a book group talk. The hostess, who was actually married to the former ambassador of Bulgaria, Lovely lady who really knew, how to give hospitality, had actually made a whole buffet lunch, just like Pearl, my private detective in the books, who also has a seafood restaurant called the Whitstable Pearl. There were oysters, there was everything there. The most fantastic day, and ever since then, she now is a volunteer for Swale Cliff Library.
Oh, right.
So I've done numerous events there with her, and we've done all sorts of things. And she recently contacted me and said, I'm coming to your book launch. That was last Thursday. But she also contacted me straight away and said, I've just got tickets for your Waterstones talk because I am your super fan. And she said, if anybody knows, if anybody could do Julie Wassmer as a mastermind subject, it's me. And she's here this
Brilliant. Okay, I think we're going to wind up this section of the evening. We're going to have a signing. I'll talk about the signing and stuff in a second. I need to thank everyone for coming tonight. Everyone online. Everyone wave online. Hello online. Thank you for watching. Thank you so much. Thank you for all your questions. Mr. D, thank you for sitting there so patiently.
Brilliant.
What you don't know is just out of shot of this window, there are two bears. Noses pressed against the window, licking their lips. They're going, looks a bit gristly, but it'll do. So there's great risk there. So thank you, Mr. D. Thanks to Doug and Kai and Emily for all the technical stuff. Seriously, I have no idea the number of cables this involved. And big thanks to Martin and the staff at Waterstones for hosting our wonderful booksellers. And again, thank you to all of you. So we're going to have, now look, there are cakes. I made my wife make cakes. So if I go home with any, I'm in trouble. So, and there is enough, there's plenty, good. And look at this, Pernille. Haribo. Branded Haribo. Okay, so none of your supermarket own brand. So take those as well. So we're gonna be signing books here, and you can ask more questions of our authors there. But let's wrap this up. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you, Mr. Steve. Thank you to everyone. Oh yes. Oh, and the books are buy one get one half price. Bog Hop. That's the So buy at least two.
I did not know it was called Bog Hop.
Yeah, Bog Hop. So yes. So a big thank you to everyone, and see you next time. Happy writing.